Now, we want to resolve this particular vector. This is the question. Now, how do we resolve this question? The question says we should find the resultant of this. Now, anytime we are given a question like this, the first thing that we are going to do is to resolve into the vertical and the horizontal components. When we say vertical components, what do we mean? Along the y-axis. Now, you will agree with me that this is the y-axis. This is positive y-axis. This is negative y-axis. That's the vertical component. And when we say horizontal component, what do we mean? We mean along the x-axis. This is plus x, positive x-axis, and this is minus x, negative x-axis. So that's what we want to do here now. First of all, what are we going to do? There are two ways. We can do this in many ways, but I want to use two different approaches to do this. Now, the first I call method 1. Resolving into vertical and horizontal components. Now, vertical component, we call it RV. So anytime we want to resolve into the vertical component, we can just say R sub V. And anytime we want to resolve into the horizontal component, we say R sub H. Now, when we want to use this method, what are we going to do? We see the vertical component as sine theta. You see what I'm talking about very soon. And you see the horizontal component as cos theta. Vertical component as sine theta. Horizontal component as cos theta. Now, after you have seen vertical component as sine theta and horizontal component as cos theta, the next thing you need to do is that your angle for the vertical component must be inclined to the horizontal. When we say to be inclined to the horizontal, that is, it must be inclined to the vertical axis, to the y-axis. And anytime we want to resolve to the in the horizontal component also, your angle must be inclined to the horizontal. This is the horizontal axis. Now, in this case, we said that our vertical component is sine theta, our horizontal component is cos theta, and also, how do we now resolve into the vertical component? We say vertical component is RV. So that means if we start from these three, you know, now this is positive y direction. That's why I put plus y here. If we start with 3, 3 is on the vertical component. So we pick 3 or plus 3, followed by 4. You see that our angle is inclined to the vertical. And we want to resolve in the vertical, we want to resolve along the vertical component. Since our angle is already inclined to the vertical. So, and I said vertical component is sine theta. So that will be 4 sine theta. That's 4 sine 30. 4 sine 30 degree. Now, after that 4, what do we have? We have 5. You see that the 5 is on the horizontal component. And that is on the positive x-axis. And we are resolving along the vertical component. So that 5 will be taken as 0. Now, after that 0, we have 6. Now, we have moved to the negative y-axis. You can see, this is negative y-axis. So that will be minus, you can see, minus 6. But our angle here is inclined to the horizontal. And we are resolving along the vertical component. And we want to take vertical component as sine theta. It means if this whole thing is 90 degrees, if we 90 minus 40, that's 50. Now this is 50 degrees. Now you will now see that our angle now is inclined to the vertical, so that we can now say minus 6 sine 50, minus 6 sine 50. The minus is there because we are in the negative y-axis now. Now after that 6, the next thing we have is 7. 7 is still on the negative y-axis, and also 7 is on the vertical component, and we are resolving along the vertical component. That will be minus 7. After that, we have it. We are still on the negative y-axis, but our angle is inclined to the horizontal, and we are resolving along the vertical component. So we make it to be inclined to the vertical. So that's 90 minus 50, and that is 40. So that this will now be minus 8 sine 40, since we want to use sine. Minus 8 sine 40. Then after that, we have 9. But 9 is on the horizontal component, on the x-axis. And we are resolving along the vertical component. So the 9 is taken as 0. So minus 0. Then after that, we have moved to the positive y-axis back, and we have 10, and the angle is inclined to the vertical, so that will be 10 sine 60. We don't need to minus it from 90. Now when we do the vertical component of resultant now, if we add all this together, we are going to have minus 3.078 for the vertical component of resultant. Now what of the horizontal component of resultant? Now we want to use RH for the horizontal component of resultant. That's number one. Number two, we want to take cos theta also for the horizontal component of resultant. Now the third thing we want to do for the horizontal component of resultant is that you will make sure your angle is inclined to the horizontal. It means any angle that is not inclined to the horizontal, you force it to be inclined to the horizontal. So now how do we go about that? Now if we start with this 3 again, now this 3 is on the positive y-axis, that is on the vertical component. You take it as 0. Now we are moving in this direction. Positive x-axis. Positive x-axis means from here to here, and negative x-axis from here to here. So now that 3 is taken as 0 since we are resolving along the horizontal component, and 3 is on the vertical component. Now followed by 4. Our angle is inclined to the vertical, and we are resolving along the horizontal component. So this whole place is 90. 90 minus 30, that's 60. And we are using cos for vertical horizontal component. That will be 4 cos 60. So we have 4 cos 60 degree. Now, after that, what do we have? We have 5. That 5 is on the x-axis, that is on the horizontal component. And we are resolving along the horizontal component. So plus 5. Then after that, we have 6. Our angle is inclined to the horizontal component already. So we don't need to minus from 90. So this will be 6 plus 6 cos 40. So we have plus 6 cos 40. Then after that, we have 7. 7 is on the vertical component, and we are resolving along the horizontal component. So the 7 is taken as 0. So plus 0. Then after that, you can see we have moved to the negative x-axis now. So that will be minus. So minus, and again, our angle is inclined to the horizontal component already. So we don't need to minus from 90. So that will be minus 8 cos 50. Minus 8 cos 50. Then after that, we have 9. 9 is on the horizontal component already, so we don't need to, so it will be picked. So that's minus 9 since we are on the negative x-axis, minus 9. Then our last one, we are still on the negative x-axis. So we have 10. 60 is inclined to the vertical. We have to make it to be inclined to the horizontal. So what do we do? 90 minus 60, that's 30. And so we say 10 cos 30. So this is 10 cos 30. So if we add all that together, we will have 11.602 as the final answer. 11.602 for the horizontal component of resultant. So now 11.206 rather as horizontal component of resultant. 11.206. Now the next thing we are going to do is we have resolved along the vertical component, and we have resolved along the horizontal component. So we draw a triangle. The final answer for RV along the vertical component is minus 3.078. What does that mean? It means along the negative y-axis. So that's if we draw your line now, the arrow will point downward. You know, y-axis is this, plus y, and this is minus y. In this case, that's minus negative y. So minus 3.078, you don't need to put minus there again because the arrow has shown that it is along the negative y-axis. Now our answer for RH is minus 11.206. So meaning along the negative x-axis. So you just write 11.206 and your arrow is pointing along the negative x-axis, and you join the triangle. And now what is the resultant? For this kind of question, the resultant R now will be, you use Pythagoras theorem. Hypotenuse square, which is our resultant, will be opposite square plus adjacent square or whatever. Now you have RH. You know, one of the sides is RH, the other is RV. So it means RH square, square root of RH square. Now our R square is RH square plus RV square. So R now will be square root of RH square plus RV square. So that will be 11.206 square plus what? 3.78 square. So if we solve that, we will have square root of 135.048, and what's the square root of 135.048? That is 11.62 Newton. So that's one way of resolving this.